Welcome to the Level Up Artist Podcast. We're your hosts, Adriana Amay and
Jackie Sanders. We are two art professionals sharing forward the advice and business lessons we have learned along our creative journeys.
we talk to artists, leaders, and art professionals to demystify the creative process and discover new ways to succeed as a career-minded artist.
If you find value in these conversations, please go ahead and subscribe. This will help other creatives like you find our podcast, and you'll be notified when we drop a new episode every Tuesday. So on today's episode, we're going to be shining a light on one of our free PDF resources that you can get at levelupartist.com. And this one is called Your... Pause.
Sorry.
Sorry. Your marketing, I don't think that's your. I think it's just marketing for artists. Yeah. Okay.
So that's the official name? Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna start use that after the intro. Sorry.
Yeah, please delete that little bit. Okay, we'll add a note.
Okay.
Sec.
On today's episode, we're going to be shining a light on one of our free PDF resources that you can get at levelupartist.com called Your Marketing for Artist Quick Guide. Now, this PDF resource is one that we have both used over the years, including in various online trainings, but we wanted to share forward with you for our listeners for free because it is just that important. We know that marketing can be super overwhelming, especially as a creative business owner, because your presence as an artist, as a brand, and just as a company in general should all be in line. Meaning that from in-person interactions to your online presence, your goal is really to create that cohesive system and messaging where each of your communication channels serves its own purpose for your target audience and future collectors.
Yeah, and depending where you're at, that might have sounded really overwhelming, but that's part of what this guide is gonna help you with, right? A little bit. So while understanding how you are connected with your audience can be, again, a little overwhelming, it can also be very empowering because you get to choose where and how you show up, right? Since you as the artist are you as the brand, you also get to choose how you're going to present yourself. So let's go ahead and go over some of these options. And please do not feel discouraged if you're not currently investing in any of these options that we're going to be discussing. This is just to make you aware of some of the options that are available and to help you choose where you need to go next, right? So these are some of the areas. Again, we're going to kind of break it down for you and then we're going to deep dive a little bit later and go from there. So stay with us if marketing is something that, sounds a little scary for you. It's not bad, I promise. It's not bad. So one of the first things is your reputation, right? And you have this even without trying. Word of mouth reputation, family and friend referrals. Obviously, we'll deep dive into that later. Also in person, old school method, try and true, doing events, whether they're open studios, networking events, your artwork in other venues, physical stores, gallery shops, etc., social circles, basically like different ways in which you show up, right? And people see you.
Yeah, and the third way that you can focus on your marketing as an artist, in addition to building your reputation, focusing on in-person interactions, is the digital space. So something that is online and scalable. And this is often where the over analysis paralysis can come in for many business owners, especially artists, when thinking about your website, your online shop, your newsletter, maybe having a blog, social media in general, from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, the list goes on and on. These are all spaces in which your online presence should be cohesive with who you are, what you represent, and the type of work that you make. So with all of these platforms and circles, these are also opportunities where a stranger can discover you, discover your work, get to know you better, which is so exciting that as business owners, we have that control over our reputation, over in-person interactions and our digital presence. And really having a strong marketing strategy, each of those should be a portion of your messaging.
Yeah, and I do want to give an example if this is sounding a little abstract. I do want to give it a little example for those of you that may not have any kind of business background or training. I think an easy way to think about this as we go down the line, whether you're thinking of a specific artist or maybe of a specific brand, think of someone or something that stands out to you where you're like, no matter what they do. I mean, let's say Hello Kitty. I'm just being funny for a second, right? But whether you get a toaster, pajamas, or stickers, Hello Kitty has a look and feel to it, right? Um, Picasso. Okay, maybe he's not a great example, but a lot of the Picasso things, whether it's a drawing, sketch on a napkin, or a giant painting or a mural, you go Picasso, right? So kind of think of those unifiers, not just also in the art itself, but also the way they present themselves. There's some artists that you may have known out there that you're like, they're that motorcycle baddie with the jacket and like, even their art like represents like has like 95 like 90s like grungy feel to it, the art does, and also the way they dress and the way they show up. And literally, you're like, this is a Nirvana era painter, right? Like, just as we go through these examples, try to pick somebody like that you know that everything you've seen from them like stands out. That like no matter if it's something on a napkin, on a billboard, or on a canvas, you're like, that is so and so.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't mean this is what you're going for necessarily to that level, but I think it'll help you as we go through these concepts to like be like, oh, okay, it's kind of similar to this other person. Yeah, and help you like put two and two together.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Adriana. And especially when thinking about not only the artwork that they make themselves, but also from the marketing standpoint, it's kind of like that energy that they have is consistent as well. So I think there's a sometimes that fear with posting on social media, especially that they're like, well, I want to make sure it feels authentic to me, which is very good to be thinking about because again, an extreme example, you don't want to have this really hard, aggressive rap music style aesthetic on your Instagram page. And then you show up in person and maybe are like more calm, introverted, wearing like pink and pastels, and like your artwork is totally different, right? Like as a audience, that could be like, well, that's not really what I was expecting from this person. Um, so you want to make sure that, okay, the person that you show up with as on your website or on your social media would be also the same person someone would expect to meet when you're at an art fair at the booth, right? You want to make sure it's all in line.
Yeah. And you can still be both, don't get us wrong. But
Yeah.
especially if you're presenting yourself in an art event, like when you're at the grocery store, nobody cares, right? We're all anonymous at the grocery store. But it's like Jackie said, if you're presenting online, like, oh, I'm this, street, like, hardcore person. And then you show up to your tent, with your artwork for this event. And you're dressed like in Hello Kitty pink pastel, everything. People are gonna go, how is that the same person I just saw online? So it's like, it's another way to put it, but yeah, kind of like have something in mind. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, like we said, we're gonna kind of help break some of this down. One thing that can help is of all these different things that we have listed, you can start by picking two to three to focus on, and you can ignore the rest for now. You can work on those later. And once you feel comfortable, you can kind of work on from there. So which do you choose strategically? Like, how do you pick even what to start on? Well, especially when it comes to digital platforms, it can be really easy. Like, there's so many options, and there might be a temptation or even messaging out there that you should be doing all of them and doing everything. And the answer is like, you don't have to. Creating a marketing wheel or some kind of diagram. We're going to go into that. It's going to give each platform a purpose and make it clear how these different pieces of marketing strategy work together, and everyone's plan is going to be different, but you can base your platforms on like the four main needs of a business. And again, you start like with one little piece at a time and then a little bit more, and then you just basically like build it out from a foundation.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to walk through it, but some categories may be covered with one or two. And so for now, ideally, you'll focus on just your top focus for each of these levels. So let's go ahead and go over how this marketing wheel will work together. So the first thing you have to think about is, okay, what is a platform or marketing avenue in which someone will connect with you? Thinking about, okay, how are they going to discover who I am, what I'm about, what kind of work I make. And so this could be on social media. This could be at an in-person networking event. This could be in person at an art market. Maybe they see your work in a gallery. So how are they first going to discover you and kind of be put onto their radar of who you are and what you do?
Yep. And then the next stage on this is the education slash get them invested, get them to learn about you, get them to care about you, like in your existence and what you do and your process. So this could be like, okay, what platform or what area am I going to pick to focus on? Could be a blog, could be YouTube, could be social media with strategic content that is literally about educating them and or showing them what your process is like.
Yep. And then once they are getting more invested in who you are, the third is, of course, they need a place to financially invest in you by purchasing work. So this could be again in person at an event. You could have an online shop. So now that they, one, connected with you, discovered who you are, two, was educated about your process, your work, what your work is about, what it represents, then step three is selling and then becoming a collector of your work.
Yeah, and then finally, you'll need to think about that long-term place. How are you going to build that, build a relationship with them, continue to communicate with them? How are you going to turn that one-time customer perhaps into a collector or even better, a lifelong fan? And then this is where you start thinking about like how to incorporate, say, a newsletter to stay in touch with them. Are you going to do this through a blog? Are you going to have any kind of collector only benefits or patronage type system set up so that they come back?
Exactly. And the beauty of being a business owner, as we said earlier, is that you get to choose where you show up and what feels right for you for each of these four levels, which again is all outlined very easy for you to reference with this free PDF at levelupartist.com. You can follow along with this episode. But by looking at platforms and spaces in which you can connect with your audience, educate them, sell to them, and build a long-term relationship, you get to pick what feels right to you with your marketing strategy. It's going to be different for every artist, for every personality type. But having that strategy is very important to at least have as guiding posts as you are making digital content or pursuing opportunities and events. You know how they all fit in. And one thing I do want to say is being aware of social media platforms, because if you have a platform, let's say Instagram, for example, that you want to cover two of these categories, make sure you specify which type of content you will need for that category. For example, having content where you're educating your audience about your work may be very different than content in which you are selling to them, right? And so while you might be using Instagram for both of them, make sure that you specify, okay, I make sure I cover this type of content and that kind of content. Um, and especially because it can be a very easy trap for social media to be the answer to all four of these. And there are many artists that make successful businesses straight off of Instagram or TikTok or wherever, which nothing wrong with that. However, from a long-term growth standpoint, it is always helpful to have multiple platforms. Because if you pick just one, you're putting all of your eggs in one basket, which is can be very high risk. And especially with social media, you don't own that audience. I think especially over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of conversation of TikTok potentially going away. Facebook and Instagram have had glitches where, oh, they just are down for 24 hours. And I think it's really made a lot of individuals, but especially business owners realize, oh, wait, this 5,000 person following or even 500 person following really doesn't make a difference if it all goes away tomorrow. You spend all
Mhm.
this time investing in creating content and marketing, but you really don't have anything to show for it without that platform. So, as career-minded artists, we have two non-negotiable platforms that we always say every artist should have, and that is a newsletter and a website.
Absolutely. They can often be the scariest, especially if you're thinking about the time commitment, the cost commitment. But honestly, long term, they're going to give you more control over your business. They're going to help you build a deeper connection with your audience. And as you build them out, I mean, you get to customize them. I mean, that's part of the beauty of it. So when it comes to a website, this is your foundation, this is your command center, this is your dashboard, this is your mothership. It's kind of how I think about it when it comes to your presence online. Every business, I feel like in this day and age, definitely needs a website. Your shop can be aligned with it, doesn't necessarily have to be. Some artists will have their portfolio on a website and their shop in a different platform. Like it's up to you and your specific needs, how you structure that, but definitely at least have that one like that page that's for you. We're going to cover some of the basics of where your website needs to include soon, but you need one end target that all your initiatives link back to. So from social media, link back to the website, from Pinterest, link back to the website, QR code stickers, link back to your website. Like, again, it's basically like your hub, right? And that way you don't have to worry too about if social media not being exactly sustainable with the algorithms. There's also account deletions. I mean, Jackie mentioned about obviously like they could go away, but there's also artists that have been having problems with their accounts being completely deleted or hacked. Like, yeah, have your own website, please. um send everybody to your website. And then the other important one, of course, is going to be newsletters. Say if everybody that knows about you, other than in real life, but from an online presence, only knows you from TikTok and TikTok that's banned because that's been talked about, how are you going to get in contact with those people to let them know they can still find you elsewhere or in another platform or on your own website? So that's where a newsletter comes in handy because then you can collect the emails and literally let them know, hey, I'm either leaving this platform, or hey, you can still find me here, or hey, I'm releasing this new thing and it's exclusive through this platform, or here's how to buy my stuff, right? Like there's so many other ways you can communicate with them, with your actual real followers, not just the ones that actually follow you on social media. And also newsletter email it's technically a platform slash algorithm. It hasn't changed in over 20 years, right? Those email contacts that people are willingly sharing with you, you own those lists. Instagram can't come and say, I'm going to take all those emails away. They don't have access to it. It's a completely separate space. So definitely worth dividing and conquering, if you will, but also like, kind of like splitting the risk and having different pockets in different places for your business.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And up next, we're going to talk about how this marketing strategy looks when put into action. But first, let's take a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by our Level Up Artist resources.
We understand that life as a modern artist can be both exciting and overwhelming. Plus, there's a lot of information out there, but what do visual artists actually need?
We've spent countless hours of trial and error, weeding through tons of information to find the gold so that you don't have to waste time going down those endless rabbit holes.
We created a library of PDF resources with bonus videos that cover everything from artist documents to exhibition prep, social media to technology, sales strategies, and artist mindset, several templates, and more.
Ready to get started? Head on over to levelupartist.com/shop to level up your creative career today. Welcome back, everyone. So, what exactly does this marketing strategy look like when put into action? As we said earlier, this will be different for everyone, but we're going to run through a couple of different customer journeys to really put it into the logistics of what does all of this mean, right? So we're going to take this stance as if we are your future customer. So let's say I'm hanging out with a friend of mine and they tell me about this amazing artist that they saw recently. So that's word of mouth from a friend, which is the best kind of authentic marketing. From there, they show me your Instagram And I go ahead and follow you because I'm like, wow, I really like some of these posts. I maybe engage with you a little bit. It's really more surface level and passive, just when you show up on my feed. But I've discovered who you are, right? You're in my orbit. So from there, maybe you share one of your blog posts on Instagram. So I get a little bit intrigued. I go to your blog, read more about your creative process, and now I'm really invested at a deeper level. Maybe I learn about the materials that you use or the meaning behind the colors in your work. So now, even though I'm still interacting with you on Instagram, it's at a deeper level of understanding of who you are and what your work represents. Then, because I want to keep learning from your blog post, I go ahead and subscribe to your email newsletter because I want to make sure that, oh, I love that blog. Next time they have a blog, I want to make sure I know about it. And this is really where that true value comes in because now I'm really invested in you and your work. Maybe I receive newsletters every 2 to 3 months, maybe once a month, and really start building that trust with you because you're top of mind. When I go every day to check my email and I see, oh, an update from you in your studio, and I always click it and read it and get more invested and inspired, that's really providing value to me, which similar to social media, but at a deeper level because it's an inbox and a newsletter feels a little bit more intimate than shouting from the rooftops on social media. And then from there, maybe you share about a new product in one of your newsletters. So of course, I click over to your shop. I purchase a piece because I'm already invested in you. I've already kind of picked up the breadcrumbs of previous content that you've made. I already have established that trust with you, and it really makes the sale so much easier once you release a new product or have a new painting, right? It's so different than starting from ground zero and then saying, oh, do you want to buy this X dollar painting? Now it's okay, well, I've already been invested along the trail, and this is just the final step.
Yeah, way different from just seeing an ad. Prints on sale, you know who this person is. So
Yeah.
yeah, different one. Another example of a customer journey, it's let's say your account. I want to say as if you were the artist that I'm interested in. So Jackie's account, right? Pops up on the TikTok for you page, right? I start looking at the TikToks. I'm already enjoying, they're funny, they're lighthearted. But then I see that there's also longer form content on YouTube. So I go ahead and check out the YouTube. Those are really cool too. Go ahead and subscribe. I learn more about it. And there's this YouTube video, and you talk a little bit more about the painting and the process and the things behind it. So then I just pop over to the shop that's linked in the video description, right? I just saw how this painting was made. I need to know more about it. Let's assume I can afford it. So I am going to go ahead and get it. And when I got that painting, now I'm subscribed to your newsletter. This is awesome, right? Through this newsletter, I get to learn when there's new YouTube videos that are released. There's also, exclusive content that isn't necessarily on social media. Maybe there's some kind of coupon code or some kind of like free print or entry or something, right? That just keeps me looking. Or maybe like the stories you write about when you travel and the inspiration for your art is like exactly what I'm looking for. It's like that highlight of my inbox. So now, I continue, I get studio updates regularly. And, I may have started out with an art print, a $40 art print based on the YouTube video from a few years ago. But I've been getting the newsletter, I've been enjoying it, top of mind. Now I'm moving into a new home. Now I have a little bit more of a budget, or I got a promotion, or I want to make a very nice gift. And now I buy an original piece of art for many more times the cost of that little print that I found out about when I saw your YouTube and your TikTok years ago. So it's like this is a long-term game, folks. Like, and this is why we're talking about like strategizing through like the different elements or sections or segments, whatever you want to call it, the different building blocks of marketing and the marketing wheel. Because it's like this is how you connect with people and how they connect the dots little by little. But you don't have to be jamming sale, 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 sale down their throat the whole time. Like you can authentically share these things and, kind of help them guide them through the process.
Exactly. And I think that's ultimately, as we wrap this up, the thing that we want everyone to think about, especially artists, is sometimes this is how opportunities can feel like they quote unquote come out of nowhere, of how, oh, this person who purchased a art print 2 years ago now came back for an original, which is the best feeling ever. But that those kinds of opportunities happen because there was a path for that customer to take, right? There may not be high foot traffic at every place along the path always, but there's an empty path for them to take. So if you just imagine in these examples, imagine if the only thing the person had was TikTok, and that's where the relationship stopped because there was nowhere else for them to go. That would have obviously stopped the customer journey very early on. And yes, there's ways that they can get deeper invested and committed to the artist. But if there was nowhere online for them to purchase work from them, they would stay a fan of their content, watch their videos, but there's no way for a future collector to actually collect their work, right? So our job as artists and as a company really is to have that path already laid out. So your future raving fans of your work who are out there, who are just waiting to get excited about what you're putting out, they just need to find the path, start the journey, and then become those raving fans of yours.
I know. Yeah, you just reminded me. It's like you can follow thousands of artists on Instagram, and there's this one that you want for this new piece for your house. How are you going to find them? Hopefully you're on their newsletter, and then you can just look inside your inbox, and you're going to find them a lot easier than, scrolling through all the people you follow on social media, because that would take forever.
Yeah.
But with that, I hope you may now see like the value and kind of what we're discussing of like laying out your marketing wheel for your business, trying to figure out where to start. Definitely highly recommended. Head over to levelupartist.com, download your marketing for artists quick guide. Again, this is a free PDF. This will help you lay some of this out and make a plan.
Yep. And by using this PDF, you'll be able to walk through that marketing system, establish how you connect and build a relationship with your target audience, and really establish where you're connecting, where you're educating, where you're selling, and where you're building that lifelong relationship for your raving fans. So whether you're at the very start of your creative journey or an experienced professional, having this more clear vision of your marketing efforts and digital platforms, how they work together, is absolutely crucial and is always good to brush up on, especially as you get into the busier seasons of your business. By building that ideal customer journey, you'll transition that stranger into a follower of yours, a follower into a fan of yours, and then a fan into a customer and into a raving fan of yours for lifelong fans.
Yeah, that's the hope, that's the plan. So if you give this a try, shoot us a DM and let us know how it went. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up today's conversation and hope you enjoyed this episode.
As always, our blog will be linked in today's show notes where you can find episode notes and links to all of our other podcast episodes.
If you want to stay connected with us in between episodes, share feedback, or have a question you would like for us to answer on social media, would like for us to answer on the podcast, you can reach us through social media. There we go. I'm at May Art across all platforms.
And I'm at J Sanders Studio on all platforms. And if you want to follow the podcast, we're at Level Up Artist on Instagram.
Make sure to visit levelupartist.com to get immediate access to templates, resource, and PDFs like this free one that we talked about today to level up your creative career.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.